We've brought John Ralph in on what has been a huge news day. Ralphie, can you tell us what the latest is in regards to Geelong and this concussion story?
Hello guys. So the AFL has tonight ruled that there is no penalty for the Geelong Football Club despite a secret deal with one of its players to make him liable if he suffered further brain trauma. That was part of a 2024 contract extension. It set off a chain of events that have included extreme scrutiny on the AFL's commission boss, who is Craig Drummond. He was then the Geelong president. It's also seen white-hot anger from rival clubs I've spoken to today who believe that once again Geelong's able to skate on a line ball incident, the most recent last year, in the third-party deals which the AFL audited. So as reported by Jay Clark in the Herald Sun today, a player with a worrying concussion history was prepared to acknowledge if he did suffer further brain trauma, he would not sue Geelong. So in a joint AFL and PA statement that was just released, both parties said they were aware the Geelong player had been passed fit to play by an AFL concussion panel. That's the independent panel which has ticked off Tom Liberatore's return to the game. The letter was then signed acknowledging the risk. It sought to waive some potential future legal rights, but as they said in that statement, it was not lodged with or approved by the AFL or the PA. So the AFL said it was satisfied, there is no further punishment there, and they have said that Geelong did not use that to allow a medically unfit player to return to the game. Kingy, there are more questions than answers. I've spoken to the AFL in the last 5 minutes. That is it. There is no punishment. Any questions about what Drummond knew, what he didn't know? The revelation is that potentially the whole Geelong board knew exactly what happened. They have been, the AFL has told us they should be directed to the Geelong Football Club. We may get some clarity from Craig Drummond. We don't so far. What's your immediate reaction?
My immediate reaction is that there's nothing to hide. Step us through what happened. How it went from point A to B to C, and we find ourselves here. Who's involved and what was signed, what was forwarded up the chain, and where did it finish? If there's nothing to hide, step every club through it. Step the fans through it. If there's something to hide, tell us nothing.
These are important people. This is Craig Drummond, who's just stepped into the AFL Commission role. It is Steve Hocking, the former AFL football boss, who is now, of course, the Geelong CEO. It's inexplicable because this was never going to be a legally enforceable document. You didn't need Aaron Brockovich to try and rip this one apart in court. And it also, and this player involved, he also, of course, had been ticked off by the AFL's independent concussion panel, the same panel that medically retired the likes of Brayshaw and also Nathan Murphy. And as I said, it doesn't remove all legal rights, but certainly if it is that Tom Liberatore in coming years has some kind of issue, he wants to sue someone, he would probably look to the AFL legal panel rather than his own club. So it's very strange, and again, more questions than answers, Sarah.
So if clubs aren't allowed to do this anymore,
Yes.
This is it. So then surely then it's not right.
Well,
then there needs to be some kind of penalty. I mean, the AFL penalises clubs for a raft of things, a whole range of minor and major indiscretions. So if there was nothing wrong with it, then why isn't everyone allowed to be doing it?
So Elijah Holland, well, the Carlton Football Club was fined $75,000 over the Elijah Holland's conduct. Again, player health and safety. Did they do the right thing by this person? Did they put him in danger? Now, again, it's not a perfect comparison, but it shows you how readily the AFL is prepared to sanction its football clubs. And again, having spoken to a lot of those football clubs, they say, why does Geelong get away with another line ball incident where we get hauled over the coals, where we get significant fines over a fifth careless umpire incident? And Geelong, it seems at this stage, according to the AFL, will certainly skate on this one.
But we're not questioning the capacity of any of the medical specialists involved. So that's all been ticked off. This, to me, suggests that the player might have a history of it, and in order to get a longer contract, he said, well, I'll waive some rights about going down the legal path should I suffer more concussion. So maybe it was an inducement to allow the club to give him a longer contract, because we know clubs are a little bit more sensitive now, particularly around length of contracts for players that have suffered concussion. So maybe there's something to do with it in that respect.
Do you still think, guys, that player safety, I keep getting told, is paramount?
Yeah, agreed.
Everyone says player safety is paramount, and then we're finding loopholes and signing off on loopholes that don't meet that standard. That's for me is the major concern, that it got to this point. So how did it get, further to what Sarah's saying, how did it get to this point? If no other club can do it, step us through what went wrong.
Until we hear everything, every little detail, questions will continue to be asked.
Now, if I was Steve Hocking when he was the AFL football boss, he'd be saying, I want to know every single detail of this, so this is a cautionary tale. Now that he's the Geelong CEO, we're not getting that same clarity. The same as Craig Drummond. And I would say that both these gentlemen, this is a serious allegation, the more detail they can give us, the more comfort they can give us for the next player who is thinking to themselves, do I sue my football club or whatever that might be? I think that's a really important thing for two very senior gentlemen in the game.
Can I ask a question about the player's manager and that angle? Were they aware? Did they know this was going on? And what's their role in this?
Yeah, I'm not aware of the specifics of that one there as well. I think the background we would tell you, though, is that Geelong, of course, is, well, Max Rook, the former Geelong Premiership player, he is the spearhead. He is the first litigant in the $1 billion lawsuit. So last year, Geelong, when they were aware they were about to be sued, they sought to pass that legal risk to 12 of their doctors who were at the club from 1985 on. So they are paranoid, that's potentially the expression here, paranoid about that legal risk. Again, who knows what? All those questions, the more detail we get, Kingy, the more comfortable we are about the circumstances, and this will not happen again.
Just on Geelong, they have been the story of the day, and this is a fast-developing story. What's the latest?
So AFL Commission boss Craig Drummond has spoken out tonight, broken his silence, and said he was aware of the legal waiver that was signed by the Geelong player in 2024, when, of course, Geelong was trying to minimise their legal risk to that player. He was the Geelong president at the time. The AFL has decided that there will be no punishment for Geelong, despite their confirmation that, yes, they were trying to minimise that risk. How could this have happened? Now, I've made some calls on this in the last couple of hours. So the AFL concussion panel makes decisions on players, and of course the player involved was cleared. Sometimes you're cleared, sometimes you are medically retired. There are shades of grey, there are margins here. So if the AFL had said to Geelong, this player is officially okay to play, but we're worried about him, I think that's when the decision was made by Geelong. What can we do to try and minimise this risk? Now, clearly it was not the right strategy, but I think that is the storyline that will emerge in coming days here, why they believe they needed to make this decision, and those details will out. Now, as Drummond said tonight, this matter was complex, sensitive and very carefully considered by the Geelong board at the time. Geelong CEO Steve Hocking said tonight in a statement the letter that was signed, the waiver, went further than it was intended and did not involve consultation with the AFLPA. As I said, there are more layers to this that will emerge in coming days, but the AFL and Geelong have decided there is no penalty, but certainly a mistake was made by Geelong in the manner of that resolution.
Jace, what's your reaction to this?
I'm fascinated by it all. Again, the key point is, why did they feel the need to do it? So somewhere in the back of my mind, I'm thinking the player was prepared to do this because he wanted a longer contract, and the club wanted a bit of protection in case there were recurring concussions that may have voided that contract or made a long-term payout more likely. I can't understand why else you would actually have to do it. There's no reason to do it if he's been cleared by a medical panel to play. You think, well, why do you need to sign a disclaimer or a waiver? I suspect it was something to do with the term of the contract that he and his manager wanted to get. It doesn't appear as though anyone's tried to get around any of the medical issues because it was cleared by the medical panel. The professionals who know best gave it a tick. But still, there's a little bit of detail to come to light, I think.
And the question I have, did the AFL know about the waiver? Did it get approved by the AFL? Did they have to tick it off? Did they have any awareness of it?
No, the AFL and the AFLPA were not aware of it and certainly didn't approve it. I think what this will do will shine the spotlight on the AFL medical board and the decisions they make. Now, if it is that there are some shades of grey there, I think all of us in shades of grey with concussion have been told, well, of course, you help the player out. It's a difficult decision, but if you're not 100% correct that the player should return to the game, well, I think we all know the answer is probably for them to retire. So I think in this situation, those shades of grey saw the player saying, I'm desperate to do anything possible to return to football. Was the right decision made there for a player who has now played on for 2 more years since that decision? I think that's what we need to investigate.
It is really difficult, though, because we know that the players' health and well-being is the #1 priority. But there's also players here making a living for themselves and their family. And if we go too hard down this path where we start stepping on every minute detail, well, all of a sudden the medical panel go, you've had 2 or 3 concussions, you retire, you're done. And then we'll start booting players out of the game and affecting their ability to earn a livelihood for them and their family. So it's a really tough, as you say, a grey area that we're in. And there's a little bit more to come to light yet.
Ralphie, just quickly, how's the AFL community reacted? The other clubs, is there concern that there's no penalty and there's nothing to see here?
They are full of rage. They feel like Geelong has had too many line ball incidents that they've skated on. Now, again, I think Geelong is going to have to make a really detailed submission to the punters out there to explain this. I'm not sure they're going to do that. That's not the Geelong way. But I think there's a lot of clubs out there that would say that we get penalised. Kenny Hinkley and his $20,000 fine. Why is it that Geelong seems to get off from punishment time after time after time?